Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are all doing good and I hope you're enjoying the autumn series so far. We are continuing. I could not resist these molds, so I've spoken multiple times on my channel about I Love Mixed Media here in the UK. Now she has pretty much closed, but she still has some stock that she is getting rid of. These are the redesign molds. They are stunning and I saw them on her Facebook page and I just said, I need them. I'll take them. I need them. These are the most autumnal stroke fall molds you're ever likely to see. First up, we have this one. Although it's giving Harry Potter vibes, we've got an owl, we've got some snails, some bugs, beetles, mushrooms, and a gorgeous like domed cloche with flowers in or mushrooms inside. So very mushroomy and owly. This one here though, oh my goodness me, I fell instantly in love with it. I knew I needed it. They feel so beautiful. If anyone has got these, I think they're Prima redesign. Don't quote me on it. I'm going to link down below. But they are simply stunning. Absolutely beautiful. The detail, they are all embossed. Some of them are embossed with like flowers and then some of them are embossed with a leafy vine style. Now, immediately, I had 101 things going on in my mind of what I wanted to use these for. First up, though, in this project, we are going to be using some chameleon powders, and I'm also going to be using the black polyurethane. Now, I did say in a previous video I had completely run out, so I did go and buy some more. This is the one you want, FC3680 Black. Now, you can purchase it directly from MB Fiberglass here in the UK, but I did speak to Denise over at I Love Mixed Media and she ordered some in for me just because she usually does and she was sending me the molds anyway. I am going to be using this chameleon powder. Now, this is the Inferno chameleon powder from Emma Cook, the Tiny Turner, distributed by Wendy over at Toompish Crafts. Now, Wendy did send this to me. But guys, I had never seen a chameleon powder that grabbed my heart the way this one did. And if you guys remember, when I spoke about it a few weeks ago, I was literally like, this is autumn. This colour is screaming autumn. It is screaming pumpkins. I cannot wait until my autumn videos start so that I can use this powder. Well, guys, that time is now. That time is now. And oh my gosh, yes, I've speeded this up. I have had to speed this up because it was long. Now, there are billions of different colours you could use here, but this was the colour that I was itching to use for all things autumnal. Now, do bear one thing in mind. These molds are matte, which means your resin will be matte anyway. Even if I don't use the powder, your epoxy resin or your polyurethane resin will come out matte because the mold is matte. However, if you're using any mold with chameleon powder, it will also come out matte because you're dulling the mold with the powder. So if you have a shiny mold, a super sparkly, beautiful, brand new shiny mold, but you're using chameleon powder in there, it will still potentially come out matte. However, the chameleon powder itself will come out shiny. I hope that's making sense. It won't be like a mirror shine particularly, but it will make the chameleon powder pop on its own. However, this mold won't do that. So I'm fully expecting matte results and that is what we are looking forward to. Okay. So the polyurethane itself is Polycraft. So you saw the number on the screen. This is 1-to-1 measurable bulb wire weight. So I've got my cup on my weighing scales and I'm measuring out equal parts A to B and it's a 30-second mix time. If you are new here, this is polyurethane. This is not epoxy resin. It's a completely different substance. This is heart palpitation inducing speedy stuff. And this cures within 5 to 10 minutes. Within 3 minutes, you can't do anything more with it. And you have to be super fast. So yeah, for me, I use this when I need speed. I could easily back these with epoxy resin using black pigment paste, create my black resin, or use the jet black resin that you can already buy black from Let's Resin Equally, this is just fast. So I might as well go down the speedy route, seeing as I have it now. Again, measurable 1-to-1 by weight. Mix for 30 seconds. Don't mix for more. Don't think you have any more time than 30 seconds. Get it poured, because as soon as you finish mixing, it is very much a watery consistency, and you need that watery consistency for your detailed embossed molds. The longer you take to pour, the thicker it gets, the more chance it won't get down into those nooks and crannies, and you will be left with air pockets. And it was already at this point, I could feel it thickening up, because it's also getting hot in the pot. And you kind of know, once you've used this stuff a couple times, you get the gist of it, you get a feel for it, and then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, that is getting hot in my hand. I need to be quick because it is about running out. And here I just topped up the ones that made my heart sing the most, even though I did use chameleon powder in the candlestick and the little wax melt seal. I didn't fill them up. The polyurethane had gotten to a point where it was getting super, super thick, and I just knew it wouldn't get into the details. The beautiful thing about this chameleon powder is that it wipes off with a wet wipe. Like other chameleon powders quite often take a little bit more effort and they need alcohol, and especially some of the mica powders. I've got some mica powders that I'm going to be using in this video, and you will see the difference. Whereas these chameleons, easy peasy clean up. I figured I'd clean the mold, otherwise it would just get everywhere. This is what we're looking like. So this first one is like a glass dome cloche, and it's absolutely stunning. It's got seriously detailed mushrooms inside. Again, I'm not sponsored by Prima or Redesign. I bought these molds myself, and they're not cheap molds. They are coming in at around 18 to 20 pounds a mold, which is expensive, but the quality and the design and the intricacy and just the simple, stunning nature of these molds makes, for me personally, makes that 18 pounds totally worth it. You've got years and years and years of creativity with these, and the possibilities are endless. But the mushrooms, oh my gosh, the mushrooms. This whole mold just reminds me of a woodland walk here in the UK. Like the mushrooms, I actually recently saw some mushrooms growing out of a log on my recent walk, and this is giving me all of the woodland vibes. Look at the little snails. You see the little snails? They're so cute. And the intricate leaves. Now this is the one where you want to make sure you don't fill it up too much, because there are gaps, and the gaps are essential. You can see my hand in the background here. Those gaps are really necessary to see the definition between the leaves and the mushrooms. The owl is everything. It is everything. It is so beautiful. Very Harry Potter vibes. We've even got this little, I guess it's like a potion bottle, and it says for love. Oh, it's so cute. It's teeny tiny and it is beautiful. Next up we've got, I guess it's like a feather. Well, it is a feather. I'm not sure if it's a feather or a broom, but my guess is going feather. And then the bugs. The bugs, sorry, look away now if you're not into bugs, but they're so detailed, and I was worried about them because they've got teeny tiny little legs, teeny tiny little legs, and antennae. Anyway, those spiky things at the top of their heads. I was worried that the polyurethane was thickening up and it wouldn't get down in, but it did a great job. And again, I missed out these two. They will be for another day. But just to let you know, this is what it looks like if you decide at this point to bring them back to life, to get rid of that matte and bring them back to life. I'm simply coating the feather in a really thin layer of UV resin using a micro brush tool, just to bring out that fiery, on fire, in flames, Inferno chameleon powder. It is just beautiful. You're getting all of the oranges, the reds, the browns, the golds all coming through once you coat it in UV resin. Now again, this is just to show you what they look like. This is matte, and this is what it looks like with a UV coat. Now I'll be honest, I'm not doing that in this video. I'm not using UV. My plan is to make the most autumnal pot. This is where I was going to divide the video in two. If you guys remember on my community tab, I was like, this video is a tad long, guys. What do I do? Do I split it in two or do I just go for it? I want to make a pot. I want all of these decals to be curved so that I can stick them onto a future pot. So before they set rock hard, so you want to demold after around about 10-15 minutes, get them to a stage where they're just flexible enough to wrap around the desired pot of your choice, and so they fix in that place. I really want these to solidify in a curved shape. And this is a pot I made yesterday, typical Blue Peter style. I made this pot about 3 years ago when I first started working with Jesmonite, and it just sits here. So I've got it, and it's the same mold I'm going to be using in today's video. So it's perfect. And I'm basically bending all of these decals and tightly taping them to this Jesmonite pot to solidify the form. So when they fully cure. But I have to be honest, guys. I have to be honest with you. I wasn't quick enough for all of the pieces. I just wasn't quick enough. Like this one here, it was too late. The owl, I was absolutely devastated. Yes, I could have quickly made another one, but I decided not to. It was too late. You really want to work fast, act fast, be fast, and do all of the things really fast. Okay, now it is the turn of the pumpkins. These get me, what is it the kids say? They get me in the feels. They have me feeling all kinds of emotions. There is something about the pumpkin. It's for everything, isn't it? It's harvest, it's autumn, it's fall, it's Halloween, it's Cinderella, it's fairy tale, it's all of the things. And this mold definitely brings out the inside mushiness. Like, I feel so gooey. Honestly, absolutely obsessed with this mold. So again, I'm using the same color. I want my pot to be cohesive. I want it all to run smoothly and be very autumnal. So I'm mixing up a little bit more of the polyurethane, mixing for 30 seconds, and in it goes. And again, this is when you really want it in the purest, wateriest state. So the things that you've got with the most detail are the ones where you really want to get that polyurethane in, like ASAP, while it's watery, because this pumpkin has got such stunning detail. And I was nervous because it's got really twisty, windy vines coming out of the top of the pumpkin, down the side and curling over and over. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do it? But I did it and it was all okay. And yes, a couple of overspills, just be conscious. And I just rubbed it with my finger and scraped my finger off onto the side of the next piece that I was going to fill up. Now, I did mix a bit too much, which is quite unlike me. Most unlike me to make too much resin. So I did pour the vine in the center and the leaf to the side. Another wipe with the wet wipe, and this is what we're looking like. Now, again, they're very matte. You're not necessarily going to get the pop of the chameleon for its intended use when you're doing something like this. But if you wanted to bring them to life, you could just highlight them with some wax. Now, this was what I did with the leftover black polyurethane from the previous one. It was getting so thick, I didn't want to risk it with the tiny bits, so I threw it in to a larger pumpkin. Now, as far as embellishing wax goes, I don't currently have a gold, but it was at this moment of filming, I decided to quickly get on Amazon and order a gold, and that came 2 days later, so that is how I was able to finish the video and use the gold. But check this out. I mean, again, this little black pumpkin here is not part of this video, but that's just an example to show you, if you wanted to keep it matte, you could bring them to life with some embellishing wax. And this one here, oh my gosh, look at that vine. Look at the way the vine came out. It was absolutely beautiful. Now, you think I'd learned my lesson? You think, Claire, you think I'd learned my lesson from the first demold and leaving it late? But the pumpkins were already on the point of being too late. So I had to work really fast and just bend it with all of my might, all of my strength, get it bent and molded around this pot to my best ability. And then I taped it down to within an inch of its life. Like, this poor pumpkin could not move. I literally was using all of my strength to get it wrapped because it was resisting. It was resisting at this point. It was already kind of on the late side of things. So if you do this, I really do recommend you give it all of 10 minutes. Use gloves. Use gloves when you demold the polyurethane in its most flexible form, and then get it wrapped around your finished subject piece to make sure that you've got all of the flexibility. I was just about lucky with these. They were okay. They did work, but as for the other pieces, it was just too late. So you can see me here giving it everything I've got to bend it in order to wrap it around. But the masking tape did a really good job. I was just trying to put as much as I could on there to hold it in place, including the stems, because again, I still want every millimeter of this to be able to wrap around my pot. So I have to be mindful of that and wrap as much tape as I can. But I was really, really happy with it at this point. But it was too late for this little guy. It was too late. I couldn't quite get it, and I knew it was kind of over. Could you reheat it? Guys, I don't know. I'm not sure I want to reheat it at this point, but this is what the pot is looking like. We have fully incorporated everything I want on my pot. Now again, this is the moment. This is the moment I was going to split the video, not earlier. It was here. I was going to kind of like do a part 1, part 2, but we're going straight into it. We're going to make our autumnal pot. This was very, very risky and something I've not really done before. This huge plant pot mould is from Amazon. Again, it's not cheap. It was around £25, I think I paid. £25 or £28 I paid for this about 3 years ago. And I've got 4 of them because at the time I was going crazy on Jesmonite pots, if you remember. We're coating this entire pot in this stunning, fiery Inferno chameleon powder. It's something I've been dreaming of since I got the powder. I did use a lot of the powder. Wendy actually sent me another container of the fiery Inferno because I'd run out, and I've officially run out again. on just one project, I've completely run out again. This chameleon powder goes a long way, like a long way. But when you're using it like this, when you're using it in this capacity and you're taking the mick and you're literally covering the biggest mold you've got, it doesn't. Like, it did enough for what I needed it to do. It did the job. It got the job done, and I was so happy. But I ran out here. So this is gold powder. So this is gold marbling powder. This is either the Let's Resin one or an Amazon one that I bought years ago. They're very, very similar. It's not chameleon, it's a mica. And I decided that if anything's going to go with the Inferno, just to finish the pot, and this is going to be the inside. So no biggie. It was the outside for me that was more important. If anything is going to work, it's going to be gold. So I decided to just go ahead, use the gold and blend it in, make marks, make it so the surface of the pot looks textured. It's not just one single shade. I can mix it in and see if any of the gold comes through and just see what the results will be. I covered the entire pot. Was it messy? Oh my gosh, was it? But so worth it. Like so worth it. This powder was definitely fly away, so do make sure you've got your dust mask on or your respirator or whatever it is you're using, just so you're not necessarily breathing that in. I wouldn't recommend. Note to self, Claire, do that in the future. But yeah, just wrapping it back round the other way was quite tricky. I kind of didn't work out how to do it without getting my hands absolutely covered, but just shoving your hands in and pulling it through is probably the easiest way. Now it's time to reassemble the mold. So there's a whole encasement for this mold if you haven't used it before, and you just clip it all back together, and it's such an easy thing. But this is what the cleanup looks like. This powder does not want to come off. It's completely different to a chameleon. It did require 99% isopropyl alcohol, and even then became quite smudgy. It wasn't like a completely clean, clear wipe. It took a few goings over and it took a few tissues and wipes to get it done. So I'm going to be using the Craft Resin Deep Pour Resin for this. You do not need deep pour resin for this mold. Even though it's a big mold, the walls are so thin that you don't need a deep pour resin when you're doing huge pots like this. You might think you do, but you don't. And the reason I'm using the deep pour resin is because I haven't used it yet. And there's nothing really bad that can happen. It's just that it might take a few more days to fully set up and fully cure. But I started this project so long ago, I knew I had the time. Now again, this is the Craft Resin Deep Pour, and it was by weight. Yes, am I weighing it? Yes, I'm weighing it. Claire. See what I mean, guys? So long ago. I decided at this point to add the black and just mix. The best thing about deep pour resin, again, I didn't need it, but I did it. You've got ages, absolutely, forever to mix it in. I usually mix my resin for 5 minutes just to make sure that I've done it correctly, no matter what resin I'm using, apart from obviously polyurethane, which is anyway. But the best part about deep pour resin is you could mix that baby for 10 minutes and there's absolutely no worry about it going off, because we already know it's going to take 2 days, minimum 2 days to fully cure. So yeah, having an extended work time is a luxury. It was time to fill the pot and then step away and hope for the best and come back 2 days later. So the mold itself, like I said, it has an encasement. So I've just got these bolts, these little plastic bolts that hold it all together in place while it sets, and just removing those, really, really easy. Not so easy with my longer nails, I have to say, but got there in the end. And then the two sides of the encasement simply just slide out. Really, really simple. Then you've got the bottom of the pot. So the bottom of the pot pulls out really easily once the product itself is cured and dried. Sometimes it can play up, but we're all good. And guys, oh my goodness me, the second I saw this, I immediately thought like the deepest, most intense sunset you've ever seen, or fires on the horizon. You know, like obviously I don't want to smile about fires because they're not fun, but Inferno, a literal inferno. It lives up to its name. The pot looks like it's hot to touch, you know, it looks like metal, it looks like burning metal. It's all of the things. We've got gold, we've got green, we've got copper running through it. Then I added the gold, and some of that gold, I feel like it transferred onto the outer edge of the pot, which has added to it no end. I did just trim off the edge of the bottom of the pot using my deburring tool, but decided not to keep that footage in because you've seen me do that a million times. And now, bearing in mind this is 2 days later, it's time to remove all of my polyurethane decals from the pot that I have attached them to set. And luckily, they all did. They are rock solid, never to move again. They are forever curved. And I was honestly, this pumpkin, honestly, I love it so much. Yeah, getting them off was quite straightforward, but I did need scissors. And look, I mean, they've just set. They're exactly what I wanted. Now this Jesmonite pot has served its purpose, so goodbye Jesmonite pot. And on to these. Now, as I said earlier in the video, these are going to be matte. So yeah, you're not going to get that incredible wow from the chameleon. But the funny thing is, the pot is also matte. And yet they look completely different. Whether that is because I've used polyurethane resin versus epoxy resin, who knows, right? Who knows? But look at the difference between the pot and the pumpkin. The pot is matte the pumpkin was matte. And two completely different results. So my thoughts are it's the silicone itself, or it's the substance I used versus epoxy versus polyurethane. Completely different, like a world away. But however, I have options here. I can either, I mean, guys, look at the mushrooms. Even the mushrooms look different to the pumpkin. Like, what is that about? There's alchemy. Anyway, I can either coat them completely in a layer of epoxy resin to bring them out, make them pop, or I can use embellishment wax. Now, I didn't have the Prima embellishment wax in gold, so I went onto Amazon. I ordered some gold rub and buff. I've heard of rub and buff. I was not ready for the smell of this stuff. Like, no, this stuff smells like pure chemical. The Prima embellishment wax smells like something I could eat. I love the smell of it. But this rub and buff, stunning, exactly what I wanted. The gold, stop it, is bringing the pumpkin to literal life. It is highlighting all of the areas. I'm using a gloved hand because the minute I opened this tube, the smell hit me in the face and it was pure chemical. So I'm using gloves for this. But look at the difference between a buffed and a non-buffed surface. Unreal. Like this, oh guys, that big pumpkin with the vine, the curly wavy vine, is giving me all of the energy I need because it's just so autumnal. But look how it just brings this to life, and it just simply elevates it. It elevates it. Again, we haven't necessarily got the pop of the chameleon, but once the wax dries, I'm sure you could again rub it over with your epoxy resin if you wanted that. I was very much going for matte vibes. And this mushroom cluster is just like something out of a fairy tale. And honestly, this is where the money goes. You know, when sometimes I do feel guilty when I get sent things that people can't actually financially afford, but then I did purchase these myself with the support of my patrons. And I do feel guilty for sharing molds that not every single person can financially afford. But I just feel like it's worth saving up £15 or £18 for the mould that is going to make your heart sing for years to come. Because look at this. It is so beautiful. At this point, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. My initial thoughts were stick one pumpkin, just one giant, beautiful, juicy, fat, beautiful pumpkin right to the middle of the pot. That's it. That's my autumn pot done. But I couldn't stop at just the one pumpkin. I ordered some of this. Now, this is a super glue. It's a super strength super glue with a agent that guys, where's the words? It's called CA glue, and you get an activating agent that helps it set, and it sets in seconds. And a lot of woodworkers use it, and I just saw it on Moray Lothian Woodworks channel the other day. He was using it, and I asked him to send me the link for the glue he uses because, oh my goodness me, stronger than any super glue. It was a bit pricey. I think it was £8 or £7 for this huge bottle. And then you've got the activator. That's the word I was looking for. Activator. I didn't use the activator because you can just use the glue on its own. I've placed the pumpkin down and I'm again strapping it in place to hold it while it cures. And I'll be honest, I don't think I needed to do that. I think this was excessive because within 5 seconds of pinning the pumpkin on the pot, it was stuck. Oh, this is me showing you. After 2 days, the deep pour resin still hasn't cured. So deep pour resin was really not the way forward for this pot, and you don't need to use it either. So just stick to your standard resin. So removing the tape, pumpkin is fully stuck. I tried to yank it off. I probably would have cried if it actually came off. I don't know why I'd do that, but super stuck. absolutely solid. Really, really happy. I decided to stick it all on. Honestly, I decided to stick it all on. I figured, what's the worst that could happen? We'll just have a really gorgeous pot with all of these stunningly autumnal decals to stare at. And depending on what decal you like the most, you could just sit the pot in that orientation and stare at the mushroom cluster, or stare at the frog or the pumpkin or whatever makes you happy. Honestly, that was too much glue. If you saw how much glue I just put on that, don't do that. It really only needs one or two. And here, I tried to move it down because I was like, oh, it's a bit high. But too late. Seconds, literal seconds. This glue was honestly working so well. Then I decided to add the frog, and I had to be mindful here of the gaps that I was leaving between the decals, because not everything made it. Not everything was moldable. I'd run out of time, so I knew I only had a few pieces that I'd wrapped around the pot that I could physically use. And the mushroom is going in that final little gap. But yeah, honestly, I loved making this one so much. The hardest thing for me was right now. Right here, right now. What do I do now? Do I leave it matte? This moody Inferno, flames are rising, intense sunset, intense sunrise, really dark and moody kind of vibe? Or do I mix up some epoxy resin, put my gloves on and rub the whole pot? But listen, I asked my patrons over on Patreon. I sent them photos and a video. I said, what do I do? Like, I will go with the majority vote. If you guys tell me to bring all of this to life with epoxy resin, I'll do it, and I'll do it right now. And 90% of my patrons, or 99% of my patrons, absolutely not. Leave it moody. Leave it exactly as it is. It is matte. It is moody. It is perfect. It's positively infernoing. The Inferno is infernoing, and leave it. A couple of my patrons did suggest making another one and trying it on a second one, which I'm more than happy to do, but of course I couldn't get that done in time. And yeah, but the majority of my patrons said leave it. So I would definitely like to try this again, but maybe not use the Inferno because I'm so obsessed with this colour and I've now run out. I've now got none at all, but I absolutely love it. Now here you can see, even though I knew that that glue had set and I could not move these decals, I did get a couple of drips. So that's something to bear in mind. Maybe, you know, wait for the full minute or two before you move the pot like I did. I literally stuck them on, held them for 5 seconds, moved the pot around and stuck something else on. This video is not about the glue. This video is not about the glue, but if you do use glue in your creations, just wait a while, because you can see I got a drip on the pumpkin and I got a drip on the mushrooms, and it's not ideal because I feel like if I now try and scrape that glue off, I might expose the black resin underneath, but I will have to do that and let you know how it went. But I am absolutely fully obsessed. Now, my other dilemma. Thank you so much to my patrons for all of your support and your advice on this. I agree, because as soon as I saw the pot like this in my hand, I was like, oh my gosh, this is gorgeous. But B, do you think it needs more? Do you think it needs more? Or is it a case of Claire, step away, walk away, less is more is less, whatever. But the point is, I couldn't just stop at the large pumpkin. I had to stick all of those decals around the pot to give it more visual interest. So now I'm thinking, would the pot look better if it was covered in similarly created maple leaves, autumnal leaves made out of my leaf moulds with the polyurethane? Just leaves packed in tight to every area, or even just one or two per gap. just autumn leaves, maybe falling, cascading down, maybe more leaves around the base of the pot. So like maybe 1 or 2 leaves in the center of the pot at the top, cascading down into more leaves at the bottom. That was the vision I got. That was the image I got when this pot was finished, because I just felt like, as much as I love it and I'm obsessed with the color, like I can't get enough of this color. I'm obsessed with the color, but is it enough? Is it enough? Does it now need more? So let me know in the comment section down below if you have stayed this long. This is possibly one of the longest videos on my channel in the last couple of years, without a doubt. And if you are in the live chat, if you are in the live chat, I am so sorry, because it's like I've trapped you here. Because when you join a live chat, you have no idea how long a video is going to be. But yeah, thank you if you're still here as well. I appreciate you too. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Let me know your thoughts on everything. The chameleon, the matte finish, the end result, the finishing wax, the embellishing wax, the molds, the molds. Let me know everything down below, how it makes you feel. Are you as like, oh my gosh, as I am? Or are you, Claire, calm down. Thank you all so much for your support. I appreciate you all. Thank you again. And I hope you feel inspired. I will see you in the next video. Bye.